we also care what's the size and the cost, right? So typically, if you have a, you have good, good resolution, say 0.1 nanometer, usually this one is relatively large, and then it's also more expensive. As you make it smaller, of course it's getting cheaper and also compact. But the question is your resolution also suffers. So why the resolution suffer? That's because if you open all this, different spectrometer, they all operate on the same principle. They are using grating to disperse light. Okay, so this is a schematic that's showing if you have light coming with different colors, then this grating will reflect light of different color into different directions. Okay, so how you can make a better spectral resolution, meaning how you can resolve two lines very close to each other. You first have to make this grating that has much finer grooves. Okay, and then you also need to try to increase the separation between the grating and the detector, because two wavelengths are close to each other, your diffraction is very close. If you go really far away, you really tell they're really separate. So therefore, typical the resolution or the wavelengths can be resolved is 1 over L. L is usually this this kind of size or the footprint of your spectrometer. That's why we're getting smaller, then your resolution is getting worse. Okay. So now the question is how we can overcome this. Okay. So we can use the disorder system. Why? Because now the reason this was long because the light is traveling in a straight path. Now in the disorder system, light, as I said, goes to multiple scatterings. They are not going to a straight path. So we actually can increase the path length through this multiple scattering. Okay. So then actually light is not going through a single path. It actually goes through many different passes. So at the end, what they generate? A speckle. But the good thing is that this speckle is different for different wavelengths. Okay? So that means that if you're coming in with a different color, then you generate a different speckle. So this speckle actually can be used as a fingerprint to recover the input spectrum. Okay? And as I said, the advantage using this one here is I wrap a long path into a small footprint. So how much my path length I can have? Well, if light is in a diffusive regime, then the average path length of light in this random medium of the size L is L squared over LT. LT is the transform in-free path. In other words, you can see how long light will travel before they scatter. Okay, so you can see the increase of the path length from the actual dimension is a big L, which is a size, over the in-free path. And this can be like 100 times easily. So that means we can really increase the path length by 100 times, which means we can improve our resolution by 100 times. But what price do we pay? So anyways, before that we know the resolution goes at 1 over L squared, which is good scaling. But the problem we have to pay a price is the total transmission is reduced, right? Because we know the total transmission go as LT, the transmission over the L. So if you have 100 times increase of your resolution, you have a 100 times reduction of the signal. So you probably increase your resolution, but you don't see anything anyway. That's why for highly scattering medium, like the wall, like the paint, you go for white, because most light goes back. So the question is, how we can using this multiple scattering to increase the resolution without paying the price of reduced transmission? That's the key. So this actually can be done on chip. So we can make a random spectrometer on chip. So what we did is made us do the silicon on insulated wafer. So this is a random medium, like in this having spherical shape. It is basically just a random array of air holes. Okay. So as I said, this time you can have multiple scattering the light, then you can really increase the path length. How I make sure that it will not going back? We put a closed boundary. Okay. So we put the closed boundary at the entrance part using this photonic crystal. Because photonic crystal, if you design the structure right, it can have a complete two-dimensional photonic band gap, which means when light coming back at any angle, they will reflect it back. Okay. Then we just introducing a defect in this closed boundaries, using just to remove one row of hole, so the light can come in, couple in there, and then they go through this kind of multiple scattering. And then at the other end, so we force them going forward. Why? Because at the other end, we have this kind of a tapered waveguide to channel the light, go through an array of detectors. Okay, so this is basically shown on the other side here. Now if they don't hit this output waveguide. They hit in between them. There's also a photonic crystal boundary. That means they're going to come back, go through more scattering, then they try to hit another one to really get out. So we force them go through much more scattering, then go to the detector where we are. Okay. So that's basically trying to reduce the micro scattering without paying the price of strong deflection. And that's basically showing this simulation, how that coming in and diffuse forward with a closed boundary. So actually, so then how we're using this kind of spectrometer, so what we do is we first have to calibrate it. But to know for each wavelength, what is the intensity distribution around this kind of detectors. So in this part, we not really integrated the detector on chip yet. So what we do is we just make a groove. We can scatter all this light to the top, then we can imaging from the top. So then we try to measure, we try to integrate the intensity around each detector area. And then we can calibrate these things for each wavelength. Then we made this transfer matrix. Okay? So then we know that this is transfer matrix. That times the input of light as spectrum, give us the output intensity profile. So we just need to calibrate this transfer matrix here. So now after that, if we have any unknown signal coming in, doesn't have to be a single frequency. We measure what is the intensity distribution around the detector array, and then we can inverse the thing to get what's into the spectrum. This inverse has some issues, but actually there's a lot of technique people did try to minimize this the difference of the spectrum compared to this measurement. So that's actually can be done very fast using MATLAB program. So we can recover this different spectrum. So just try to show you that indeed actually for this small size, 50 micron by 100 micron size here, we actually can resolve two lines that's separated by about 0.75 nanometer. Okay, and then then how many spectral channels we can measure? Then how many different wavelengths we can measure? That depends on the number of spatial channels we can measure here. Okay, so for this case, if we want to make them continuous, we can measure about 25 nanometer. But that's not the only case. You see, the thing is that if I know my input light has a few lines very far away, there's nothing in between, I can just build my transmission matrix with only those wavelengths. Then I can measure something really much larger spectral range than what actually a grading spectrometer can do. Okay, and also, so another issue is about loss. I think the throughput is very important. Not only the size, the kind of the resolution, the throughput is very important for the sensitivity. So here you see that we can avoid the light going back, but light can still scatter to the top. That's how you can see this kind of imaging here. So how we can minimize that? That we can engineering disorder. Not only using completely random structures, we can introduce short range order, or this is basically for kind of model structure, or we can introduce long range order, short range disorder. This is called the golden angle spiral lattice. By engineering those kind of disorder, we can really minimize the vertical leakage. You can see here, here you have a lot of vertical loss. Here you really have nothing coming from this sample. This part is because of impedance mismatch at this input. But if you see here, you can really minimize the vertical loss. Okay, so with that, let me try to summarize what this random spectrometer is. Really pretty small because I wrapped all the glass inside the finite footprint. And it has very good resolution because I can really use microscopy to increase the spectral diversity. And also we can have a broad spectral range, meaning that multiple scanning happens in any, for any light, right? So if I can calibrate my random spectrometer for all different wavelengths, I can store them in my computer. Then I say, okay, now I'm trying to measure in this frequency range. I just, take out this thing to construct my transfer matrix, so I can really measure for many different frequencies using the same structure after the calibration. But then after that, I was saying, well, this looks good, but I want something better. So what I want really ultra-high spectral resolution. Now we can resolve about sub-nanometer. But I wanted to really break, the record of the spectrometer people can have on the market. And then I was hoping we have an extremely broad bandwidth to measure the entire visible frequency range. Or we can have almost 100% transmission with no loss. So I want to have, can we have that? My students think I was crazy. And then I went to this Clio. Actually, I listened by somebody trying to make this a photon, the bandgap fiber dangle. So what they did is that they make this kind of photon crystal fibers, and each one has some particular transmission band in terms of the frequency. Then they make a lot of them which can transfer different wavelengths. It's like a bunch of colored filters to really try to map out the, this input spectrum. So I never played with fiber before, but as I saw this, I said, okay, I think I can do this with a single multimode fiber using the speckle. Because we know that we can, for single mode fiber, single multimode fiber, we also see the speckle. The speckle also depends on the minute wavelengths. It will still can use a fingerprint. Okay? So that's why is that? Because when the light coming in to a multimode fiber, they really populate through different guided modes. Okay, and then we have to, then we have different, phase delay at the end. Then you have to add them together. So different one has different phase delay, which is propagation constant times the length. Okay, so now actually I will move it here to show that for just 1 meter fiber coming from solar. I never played with fiber before, so we just got one commercially. Now we sending the light with different wavelengths. You see, as we change the wavelengths, the spectrum kind of start to change. Okay, and what determines the spectral resolution? In other words, how far you have to move to generate, to generate different spectral pattern. You see that if my wavelength is changed, my propagation constant is changed. This change can be very small, but the problem is that I have a very long length in my fiber. So this induced phase change can be very dramatic. If the phase change is dramatic, then my interference pattern will change, because this is really a multimode interference phase. So actually the resolution is inversely proportional to the length of the fiber, and also this is actually a differential velocity there, which is, I will not get into the detail. So this is 1 over the path length. So that means for longer path length, we have better resolution. So how long can we do? This is, let's say, 100 meters. That's not that long, actually. The transmission almost to 100%. So this way actually, again, covers new form. Is that we have a single mode fiber connected to the multimode fiber through a connector. This 100 meter multimode fiber is coiled into this 3-inch spool. And then the output just go to a detector, just to a camera to see this kind of speckle pattern. So with 100 meter fiber, we actually can resolve 1 picometer. Okay? And that actually is better than the existing grating-based spectrometer. And those are actually very long, it's over a meter long there. They have 6 picometer resolution. Why is that? As I said, because the light here propagated in a straight path. Here, because I can coil my fiber, so I can make it like 200 meter long, then I can double my resolution without much increase my footprint. Okay.
How does the lead time have Fourier transform spectrometer?
Fourier transform very good. Fourier transform spectrometer is that you have to scan something to get different frequency. You can think of this one is a multimode interference, because the light coming with all different passes. So you already did all these different pass interference simultaneously in a single shot. That's why you can really recover that. Okay, so so now I'm going to how stable it is. So something if it's very sensitive, it's also maybe it's not very stable, right? So how the stability. So and that's what we do one test. Is that so this is our this 100 meter fiber. We didn't do any temperature stabilization. This is like putting on optical tables and then in the free air. We don't have anything there. Now let's try to see what happened. Look, okay, as I said, this fiber after they coiled, they do glue them, so it is mechanically fixed there. But there's still ambient temperature, a lot of environment there. So let's see what happens. So this basically showing. Can you see that? As much of time you see the speckle, I don't know. You can tell. There is some changes. How you can see that? Because when I going to use the recover program to recover the things here, you see actually my line was shifting a little bit. There's slightly change. I know it's small, but there's still something in there. Okay. So then the question is, you can see now. You can see that it's really so they still recover using the same program, but the temperature change is indexed. They don't know the index change, so they think the wavelength has changed, right? So how we can recover it? We realize that for different wavelengths, all the lines are shifting the same way. So that means if we have some standard frequency of the light, so in neon, very stable, we periodically, we measure what that is, and then we try to correct it. If we can correct one of them, all of them will come back. Okay? This is just a software correction. We haven't done really hardware stabilization yet, and then actually this shows that it really can reduce over 10 hours. We can reduce this, the variation much dramatically just using a simple software correction. Okay, but actually there's a group in Italy. They tried using this high-resolution spectrometer based on fiber to do frequency cone spectroscopy because your frequency cone has many these fine-spaced tubes. Okay, so they basically try to make this go through some gas, and then try to see which tubes was going down, and then using this to see what is the what's the gas. And so let me try to summarize this fiber spectrometer. So what's the advantage? Advantage that is that it can have very high resolution, very low loss because the transmission through the fiber is really no loss for 100 meter fiber or 200 meter. It's broadband. Why is it broadband? Because we map one-dimensional spectral information to two-dimensional speckle. So that's why we have many more spatial channel allow us to recover the spectral information. And then it can be a single exposure, and then can be reduced size, weight, and cost. So what's the constraint? I have to really say that is that this fiber, after you calibrate it, you still have to calibrate what is the speckle for each wavelength. After the calibration, you cannot further bend it or twist it. So then we have to redo the calibration again. Okay? And also we have a fixed input spatial profile and the polarization state. That was done by coupling light through a single mode polarization maintaining fiber, which is then spliced into this multimode fiber. Okay. So I think with that, I'll summarize my talk. Basically, first I just show you that we can really tailor the spatial coherence of laser to make speckle-free imaging. And the second one we show you actually the speckle pattern actually has a lot of information. Example allow us to make the high resolution compact spectrometer. So with that, thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Very, very interesting talk. And we have some questions, and I think we have some more.
Hi, that was a very interesting talk. I really liked it a lot. I have a question. Have you thought about a path forward to not have to pre-calibrate it? So you show this wavelength-dependent shift that's a result of heating, but if you put something with a known GBD in and then do basically two images or X number of images, and you could figure out from there what the wavelength, what the speckle pattern for a specific wavelength is, right?
Yeah, actually, that's a very good question. I'm also thinking about that. Actually, there are some people when I went to conference, people also mention that. I mean, I may be able to get simultaneously my transfer matrix with my spectrum by measuring a few things, and I'm also using some kind of learning algorithm or something, which I don't know about, but I'm very much interested in learning more about it. But there seems to be a possibility, but I cannot say for sure. Yes.
Very interesting talk. So I guess the fiber spectrometer has the advantage that it is in some ways simpler than the cavity-based one. But you was mentioning in the cavity-based one, in that case, you have the freedom to make whatever pattern you want, so that if you know for many cases, you have a finite number of possibility of input spectrum.
Yeah.
In that case, would that be more optimized for some cases?
This is actually very good question. We have 4,000 air holes drilled on these random patterns. Right now, we just drill them randomly. But there's a lot of freedom, a lot to control how we design structures, which maybe can be optimized for a particular spectrum. That's a very good question. But the question is, I don't know how to do it because there's too many people have freedoms to control it. And again, people are telling me there's some ways, there's some applied mathematics developing some optimization scheme which may maybe allow that. I'm also learning about that. That's definitely possible, but I just don't know how to do it with so many degree of freedom I have.
So for the random laser, how do you characterize the gain of the laser?
How do we calculate the gain of the laser?
Yeah, and how to determine the laser threshold?
How to determine the laser threshold?
Laser.
The laser threshold. So basically what we have seen that, okay, for the gain median, because
we thank the speaker again.